Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of you. I'm truly delighted to welcome you all to our webinar, All Fast Part 2 Mooring Safety and Compliance for Dry Operators, presented by Bluetech Media in collaboration with Broadside Marine Private Limited. This webinar will delve into the obstacles faced and potential practical remedies in the realm of mooring safety and compliance for dry vessels operators. It is our pleasure to have you with us today, and we are excited to engage in a fruitful discussion on this crucial topic. As we gather here from different parts of the world, we understand that the safety and compliance aspects of mooring operations are of paramount importance in the dry cargo shipping industry. Our distinguished panel of speakers and experts have a wealth of knowledge to share, and we are fortunate to have them guide us through the intricacies of this subject. We believe that their expertise and experiences will enrich our understanding and help us navigate the challenges of ensuring safety and compliance in dry cargo mooring operations. I would also encourage our attendees to participate in the discussion by submitting questions and comments. Our panelists and speakers will do their best to address as many of your questions as possible during the Q&A session. This will help us to understand the exact challenge being faced by a fleet. Now, before we move ahead, you will find an option called as click here for options button at bottom left of your screen. I would request you all to please click that option. You will see show agenda, ask a question, and open the live chat button there. When you click show agenda, you'll be able to download the agenda for this webinar. When you click ask a question, you will be able to ask questions to any of our speakers. And by clicking open live chat, you will be able to chat within all the participants who are right now attending this session. So again, thank you for joining us today. I hope you will find your time spent here worthwhile. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the webinar. To begin with, let me introduce you to our moderator, Captain Ritesh Kumar. Captain Ritesh Kumar is a co-founder of Broadside Marine and a MEG4 expert who have assisted tanker operators and dry operators alike. He has been helping dry vessel operators for onboarding mooring safety and compliance with respect to MSC Circuit 1/1620, along with right ships and DBMS, not to forget few Australian terminals. He has started working in this sector in 2018 after the publish of MEG4 by OCIMF, which brought paradigm changes in mooring safety for tankers. The journey started 5 years back and continuing in even more intensity. He has assisted for more than 300 vessels for mooring safety and compliance so far. So I'll hand it over to Captain Ritesh. Over to you,
Thank you,
Captain
Ashish.
Ritesh.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And welcome to all participants and speakers. And a special thanks goes to our esteemed speakers for making this event possible. Yeah, we are thrilled to present the second installment in our webinar series on mooring safety and compliance. This time, we are focusing on dry vessels. Following our successful webinar for tanker operators in March 2023, same year, we recognize the pressing need to extend our focus to dry vessels, more so as 1st Jan 2024 is approaching. Over the past 4 to 5 months, mooring safety has taken a center stage in maritime industry. We too have been contacted by several dry vessel operators who are eager to embrace these crucial developments. In the vast and interconnected world of shipping, regulatory changes can be slow to manifest. But when IMO sets a course, the entire industry takes a notice. Well, I am Ritesh Kumar, co-founder of Broadside Marine, and today I have the privilege of serving you as a moderator for a discussion that brings together various vessel operators to delve into the critical topic of mooring safety for dry operators. I'm confident that this discussion will provide practical insights and prove immensely valuable to all of you. Before we embark on our discussion, allow me to provide a very brief presentation outlining our company's association with mooring safety over last few years. All right. We are there as far as dry vessel operators are concerned. We are there for MSC 1 Circular 1620 uh, and uh, MEG4 advisory for tanker operators. We are doing a lot of services within mooring management. Few of them are listed on the screen. We are right now engaged heavily as far as compliance with MSC Circular 1620 is concerned. Then mooring system management plans, line management plans, this stays the same as it was for tanker vessels. Then we are doing live mooring audits. We are doing SMS procedures review basis the regulatory framework. As you know, the regulatory framework for tankers and dry vessels are totally different. We are also into some technical services as far as mooring management is concerned, like mooring line load analysis and also engineering and strength assessments for which we can provide the design assistance. For any kind of job, for any kind of gaps, we have a standard process flow where first we discuss about the scope, basis what the operator has actually done so far, basis their SMS, basis their practices. Then we ask for what documents are required and if any other pertinent information or if any other expectations. Then this documentation is reviewed, we analyze, and then we produce the deliverables. Okay. Why broadside? We have done over 300 vessels in the same segment, which consists of tankers as well as dry vessels. This is the list of a few of our clientele. They have been trusting us. We have been also approved by Lloyds to carry out the environmental forces in line with OCMF MEG4 guidance, right? So whatever we calculate, whatever we put down on paper, that is indirectly endorsed by Lloyds. Our company is ISO certified by Lloyds again. That was a very, very brief presentation about our association. If you want to connect with me on any of the mooring related issues, be it dry vessel, tanker vessel, or any other type of vessel, these are my contact details. Well, thank you. Thank you for going through the presentation.
Thank you, Captain Ritesh, for such a wonderful presentation. Yeah. And before we move on to the panel discussion, I would like to remind all the participants to participate in asking the questions. So before we move ahead, let me remind you all that you will find the option click here for options button at the bottom left of your screen. You can click that option and you can ask a question. Okay. So moving ahead, we are moving to the next session, which is the panel discussion. And let me welcome all our panelists. To begin with, let me introduce our first panelist, Mr. Sunayan Sanatani, Deputy General Manager, Great Eastern Shipping Company Limited, a graduate marine engineer from DMET, Kolkata, India, with extensive experience of 34 years in ships operations and maintenance, shipboard audits, vetting inspections, dry docking and repairs, live extension projects as a senior superintendent and a senior classification society surveyor, presently working in as a fleet manager in Great Eastern Shipping in the technical department. So let me welcome Mr. Sunayan Sanatani. Welcome on board, sir.
Good morning,
Our
good
next,
afternoon, good evening, everyone.
let me welcome our next panelist, Captain Ravi Shekhar Bellam, Manager Marine Synergy Marine Private Limited. He is engaged as Marine Manager in Synergy Marine. Earlier, he has been with V Ships for 11 years, out of which he has been Global Audit Manager for 7 years. He has been engaged in risk mitigation with respect to MEG4 compliance in his fleet. So welcome on board, Captain Ravi Shekhar.
Thanks, Ashish. Good day to all the panelists and all the viewers from wherever, whichever part of the world you have joined in. Hopefully, we'll have a fruitful webinar. Looking forward to the webinar.
Thank you, thank you. Our next panelist, Captain Manish Verma, Marine and HSEQ Superintendent, Inter-Orient Marine Services. He has been ashore for now for 8 years and worked in various capacities ashore. He is engaged as a Marine and HSEQ Superintendent for Inter-Orient Cyprus. He has been engaged in day-to-day operations for a mixed fleet for dry and tanker vessels. So welcome on board, Captain Manish Verma. And our final panelist, Captain Vipin Manapure, Marine Superintendent, Tolani Shipping. Captain Vipin Manapure has sailed on various types of oil and chemical carriers till 2012 when he switched to dry bulk carriers. He has been in Tolani Shipping since 2012, where he shifted ashore in 2021. He is engaged as a QHSE superintendent at present in Tolani Shipping and looking after the day-to-day operations of fleet of bulk carriers. So I welcome Captain Tesh to moderate this particular session as well.
Thank you, Ashish. Thank you very much. So let's start with the most important part of the webinar, that is discussion with our esteemed speakers. Uh, I'm sure that this discussion will be informative and valuable. So let's start with the first speaker of the day, Mr. Sunayan Sanatani. Mr. Sunayan Sanatani, I would like to invite you to speak about various, that is the pressing need of the hour, about various upcoming IMO regulations which will be effective from 1st Jan 2024. Over to you, Mr. Sanatani.
Thank you, Ritesh. So we will briefly run through the regulations, okay, with regards to moorings, why the need for statutory certification, things to watch out for in the new regime, and what is to be done for older ships. Okay, as you all might be knowing, mooring as a requirement in SOLAS came about only in 2007, 1st January. Before that, mooring was not a part of SOLAS. It was totally outside the purview of any statutory requirement. But because of various issues, which we'll just briefly delve on a little later, this became a mandatory requirement from January 2007. Going forward, from 1st January 2024, we have some upcoming amendments, mainly pertaining to inspection of the existing mooring arrangements on board. Previously, mooring arrangement and inspection of equipment, inspection of mooring lines was not a part of SOLAS. Coming from, with effect from 1st January 24, it will become a mandatory requirement. Now, some background information on why it is so. Design of ships have become more complicated, you could say more optimized. Okay, but it was felt that development of mooring systems have not adequately followed the development of ship designs. And the main critical part was, despite operational safety improvements on mooring operations, a high number of accidents still were taking place. So that is why what was decided is we will have to strengthen the existing regulation, which was very generic in nature, the original SOLAS requirement, which came about in January. Now it is divided in two parts. Part one is on selection of appropriate fittings. Part two is on guidelines for inspection and maintenance of mooring equipment. Ships built before 2007 will have are likely to have some challenges on certain aspects, such as not having the minimum brake load and safe working load data of fittings. This may not be available in the ship's records. For vessels where the information is available, class will do the review and approve the documents. Where vessels do not have the documentation, it has been left to the ship owner to establish MBL-SLD based on the safe working load of mooring fittings. Now, maintaining compliance will basically boil down to the procedures, following the procedures, which is A, inspection of mooring equipment, identification and control of mooring lines, and to follow the manufacturer's criteria for replacement of mooring lines. Okay, what is the goal of the new regulation? Goal of the new regulation, like always, is to help us replace mooring lines before any imminent failure. It is assumed that such replacements will lead to a reduction in mooring incidents, which are still a very large number. And the second goal is to select mooring lines, in the replacement mooring lines in such a way that they are compatible with existing fittings. This briefly is the summary of the new regulations. Thank you.
Right, right. Very well said, Mr. Sunayan. Uh, I want to delve a little deeper into the upcoming regulations. A very very fundamental question. You know, why there has been a historical lag between dry vessels and tanker vessels with respect to mooring safety, especially when they have almost no difference as far as vessel structure is concerned, or even port operations are concerned. For example, a very fast changing freeboard while in port. So why there has been a lag between the standards?
Very well asked question, Ritesh. As you said, the mooring system and its operation is almost identical for tankers and bulk carriers. There's almost no change. But tanker industry traditionally has been driven by the tanker bodies, chiefly the OCIMF. They understood quite some time ago, almost I think 10 years ago, that unless we put a little more control on mooring fittings, mooring equipment, we are likely to have more incidents. That is why they brought out their own guidelines, which were not part of statutory requirement. Having said that, the IMO realized that this has to be implemented in all ships, including dry cargo. And this is why the lag. The lag is because the bulk carrier industry, the dry cargo industry, it's much more fragmented. The industry bodies do not implement their own rules and they look up to the IMO for regulations. So once it has been brought in IMO, it has now become mandatory for bulk carriers. This is the main reason for the lag between the tanker industry and the dry cargo industry.
Right. I think you have truly pinpointed uh, the pain point, I should say. Okay, a little more deeper. Let's talk about ships equipment. Many a times we see, for example, let's take mooring winch. Many a times we see there is a total disconnect between the mooring fittings on board and the winch brake holding capacity. More so for older ships built before 2007. Many times we see that either the mooring winch is heavily strengthened, or we see the mooring winch holding capacity is very low. So now mooring winch being a fixed equipment, it is not easy to renew or change just like any other, say, a mooring line. So there is nothing much for winches even in ISCS URA2, as far as winches holding capacity is concerned.
Yes, that is correct, Ritesh. And the main reason is, as we have dealt with earlier, mooring fittings as a SOLAS requirement came about only in January 2007. Before that, the design aspect of mooring as a part of ship structure, as a part of SOLAS was not there. So you will have equipment on board with incomplete information, and but you are required to comply with this new regulations. What has been done now is for older ships where this information is not available, the owner or the operator will declare his working values for the design load, for the safe working load. Based on that, class will approve your documents. You are not required to change or modify any of the existing fittings, especially for ships built before January 2007. That is the current arrangement.
Thank you. That was a very authoritative uh, speech from information from you, and I'm sure that that must have cleared some roadblocks. All right. Thank you, Mr. Sunayan, for such an informative speech. After Mr. Sunayan, let's move to our next speaker, Captain Ravi Shekhar. And Captain Ravi Shekhar, I would like to invite you on center stage to speak about compliance with statutory and industry recommendatory regulations. Over to you, Captain Ravi Shekhar.
Thanks, Captain Ritesh. Once again, good day to all in the webinar. So I'll be speaking regarding the compliance. Mr. Sunayan has already given a brief intro about the regulations which are going to come in effect. So just going back to a brief about the history. Uh, as Ms. Sunayan and Captain Ritesh said, tanker industry has already understood, and then the requirements have been underscored by multitude of statutory regulations driven by OCMF. However, a significant shift now is occurring in the dry shipping sector. The most pertinent one is IMO Circular MSC 120, which is talking more about the inspection and maintenance of mooring equipment and the lines. That is going to this is going to be a major change going forward from January 1st, 2024. This will be in line with more or less in line with the MEG4 guidelines. Uh, this this 1620 is now talking about design MBL and LDBF and all those things. So I think IMO and then this MEG4 they all are now going to work. It's a combined and the same kind of statutory regulations or minimum standards are being enforced on board all types of ships, regardless whether they are tankers or dry ships and all this. Okay, that is from IMO point of view. Right ships, as we all know, is quite important from for dry ships, especially bulk carriers. So right ship also has been already taking this MEG4 guidelines, and they are primarily focusing on section 5, which is mooring lines, and then mooring winches, and then appendix, which is guidelines for purchasing and testing of mooring lines, which is how often we need to uh, renew the mooring lines, is onboard testing is allowed, and blah, 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 those kind of in those lines. So right ship also is talking about the SDMBL and then LDBF and all those things. So we all have to comply with these things. We are already having seeing in the industry, right ship is already giving some findings regarding this in their inspections. So if I can say what we are talking about, which is going to come into effect from 1st January 2024. So starting January 1st, 2024, this SOLAS regulation, chapter 2.1.3.3.8 will come into effect, which is introducing the updates on towing and mooring. So that is basically talking about two MEPC circulars, which is MSC 1619 and 1620.
Correct.
Yeah, you're saying something?
No, please continue, sir.
Yeah, okay. So these things basically are trying to put a systematic process in place for inspection, review, and maintenance of the mooring equipment on board. 1619 is basically about the design and construction of the mooring equipment, which, as Mr. Sunayan said, for the ships built before 2007 and built after 2007. The ships which are built after 2007, they already have some the strength of the equipment, mooring equipment and all that. But before 2007, That's not so. So the owners or the operators have to get the EN number and then calculate the SDMBL, and basis the SDMBL, the lines and brake holding capacity, or those things have to be adjusted. So the major thing which is going to change, as I said, is the documentation, how it is going to be formalized. For that, we need to have one mooring line management plan, uh, or LMP, the line management plan. So this document will have to specify what are the equipment on board, what is their specific working load, and what is your SDMBL, and then it needs to identify what are the maintenance aspects which will be taken care, what will be the maintenance needs to be done, and quite importantly the mooring lines. As of now, since there was no statutory requirement to have the mooring lines of so much of MBL or something like that, but which is going to change from 1st of January 2024. So MSC 1620 says the mooring lines which are going to be changed need to be of particular strength. This has to be 100 to 105% of the ship's design MBL. So as of now, we see many of the mooring ropes and most of the vessels do not comply with these requirements, but the regulation, the statute, it doesn't say that we have to change all the mooring ropes starting 1st of January 2024. So
Right.
it says as and when the mooring ropes need to be changed, which again will be decided basis the maker's recommendation as well as the uh, condition monitoring, which again has been left to the
Right.
ship staff. So whenever the mooring ropes are being changed, that is the time we need to be careful that the MBL is only 5% maximum, more than 5% more than the ship design MBL. So this is what is going to be the major change for the dry operators. But however, this is as the shipping industry on the ships is very well regulated industry. We can have the changes, the standardization is brought around on all the ships. But that is unfortunately not the case as of now with all the ports and terminals. The compliance with a uniform compliance by ports and terminals is still not in place. But more and more port and terminals like many of the terminals such as PPA and DBCT, they are insisting on the vessels adhering to MEG4 guidelines. So if you see the questionnaires and all, they already are rejecting the vessels if the vessels are not meeting the guidelines, their guidelines, which are in line with MEG4.
Right.
So that's the major change. So I think the positive development of this is uh, Mr. Sunayan said, it's not only in tank industry, even on dry ships, the risks remain the same. So why not bring about the requirement so that everybody follows the minimum guidelines, and then we have less number of accidents, incidents during mooring operations, and we have a better, safer mooring operations on board the ships. That's it, Captain Ritesh.
Right. Thank you. Thank you very much, Captain Ravi. Uh, basis what you just spoken, I have a couple of questions for you,
Mhm.
Captain Ravi. We would like to know some action point as dry vessel operator. So I want to ask you a very specific question. As a dry vessel operator, suppose I already have framed maintenance and inspection aspect of my mooring equipments like winches, stand rollers, mooring lines, retirement criteria. So do I need to do something immediately uh, uh, in SMS or for my vessel?
Sorry,
Yes,
Captain.
Captain.
Okay.
I think you lost me. I'll repeat my question. My question is that as a vessel operator, I have already taken care, or shall I say, I have been taking care of maintenance and inspection aspect of mooring equipments like winches, stand rollers, mooring lines retirement criteria, mooring lines inspection criteria. So, so do I need to do anything immediately to comply with MSC Circular 1620?
Yeah, that's a very pertinent question. I would say everybody is looking for that same answer. In what way it is going to affect us and what we need to do to meet the requirements. See, for many of the standard operators or the owners have already got uh, guidelines on how to review the or they've already reviewed, and then they have the maintenance schedules or procedures in place. But however, once this thing comes into force, this needs to be a separate document or formalized way of doing this. So we need to have a separate plan where all these things are captured, and this will be verified by the RO during the next annual surveys. So that's the first thing we need to do. And then the second thing, as I said earlier, as and when the mooring ropes need to be changed, which is not mandatory to be changed. I'm repeating again, not mandatory to be changed 1st of January 2024. Whenever, as per the renewal criteria of the ropes which are already available, if two ropes have to be renewed, so we need to be careful while ordering that the MBL of the mooring ropes is not more than 5%, 100 and that's like 105% of SDMBL.
Right, right.
I hope
Thank
that
you.
answers your question.
Yes, yes, very much. Thank you, Captain Ravi. Next question in line would be again a very generic question from the
Mhm. Mhm.
perspective of a dry vessel operator. See, vessel and vessel operators uh, already have are binded by the regulatory framework by way of say IMO or the dry vessel industry associations like Right Ships and now newly coming DPMS. So why can't the terminals, why can't the ports and terminals also align their mooring arrangement, mooring procedures, rope requirements? Why don't they also align their procedure to the existing regulatory framework which vessel operators are already binded with?
Yeah. Uh, uh, yeah. Very, very practical question, I would say. Uh, as mentioned earlier during my presentation, it's the shipping industry, the vessels are well regulated, like because they all come under the purview of IMO or as you said, some industry bodies like OCMF or ride shapes or intercovers. However, unfortunately, the terminals which we have in thousands or in hundreds and thousands spread across the world in different countries where the standards are different, the safety standards are different, the tolerance levels are different, the risk appetite is different. So, unfortunately, as of now, there's no uh, all-encompassing regulation to say that these are the minimum standards or this needs to be like this. So on some terminals where the risk appetite is low, probably their safety standards are a bit higher, so they insist on higher standards of mooring safety, uh, which is not unfortunately so in some of the other countries. Uh, uh, if quite interesting that it's within the same country, like suppose if we say when we are talking about dry ships, we always end up talking about Australia. So even in Australia you have ports like PPA or DBCT where they are looking at very high standards of moorings, which is at least to MEG4 guidelines. Whereas at least one terminal I know in Australia, where still the loader is fixed. The ship has to be warped up and down. If you everybody will agree that the mooring ropes are designed not for warping the ship.
Right.
Mooring ropes are designed to keep the ships alongside the wharf. So unfortunately that's the case, but what I would say is uh, if we meet these minimum requirements going forward from 2024, all the ships will be equipped. They can be confident to go to any of the ships anywhere, I mean any of the terminals, anywhere in the world. Of course, there will be some minor additional requirements if there is some tidal restrictions or high tidal currents or things like that. Otherwise, if the ships are meeting these new guidelines, then they should be good to go to any terminal in the world.
Right. We would wish that all terminals, align to some common minimum mooring standard, so it will
I
be
hope so.
little easier life for the dry vessels and their operators. So thank you, Mr. Captain Ravi Shekhar. That was very informative. Uh,
My pleasure.
Now, after Captain Ravi Shekhar, I'll move on to our next speaker in line, Captain Manish Verma. And Captain Manish Verma, I would like to invite you to speak specifically about how light ships and OCIMF MEG4 are shaping up the mooring safety compliance for dry vessels as well. Over to you, Captain Manish.
Thank you, Captain Ritesh. First of all, a warm welcome to all of you to this webinar. A big thanks to the organizers and to all the viewers from wherever they are joining us today. As Ritesh rightly said, I'll speak about the RISQ 3.0, which is Right Ship Inspection Questionnaire, and MEG4, and how they are shaping up our industry with respect to mooring compliance in dry sector. We all are aware that tankers or the dry vessel, they both share a commonality with respect to their structural configuration, windage areas, and their changing freeboards when they are at the berth terminals. However, an intriguing disparity exists when it comes to its mooring requirements. The tanker industry has been subjected to increasingly stringent mooring regulations, while the dry vessels we see hardly. They had minimal requirements, and that too primarily focused on mooring line requirements and inspection criteria, nothing more. Even the testing of the winch brakes in the dry vessel occurred less frequently. Typically, we have seen every 5 years, as opposed to the annual frequency observed on the tanker fleets. Now, why is it important to discuss so much about safe and efficient mooring? Because they are critical for safe, efficient loading, unloading of cargo when the vessel is in port and terminals. Improper mooring practices will lead to accidents, injuries, damage to the vessel, cargo, port infrastructure, and this in turn will cause significant financial and environmental consequences. In addition, ineffective mooring practices will cause severe delays and in turn will increase the operational costs of the vessel when in port. Therefore, all this will ensure safe, efficient mooring operations, and that is why it is very essential in our maritime industry. On the tankers, this topic has been given a due attention because they are subjected to SIRE and CDI inspection regimes. And MEG4 compliance was ensured on these tanker vessels because of the virtue of these inspections, which has been lacking on the dry vessels. Now, MEG4 guidelines, they serve as a vital resource for the maritime industry, which I said earlier promotes safe and efficient mooring operations. With proper risk assessment, equipment selection, regular inspection, and maintenance, MEG4 aids in preventing mooring incidents. When MEG4 came out in 2018, there was a big paradigm shift. They came out with the guidelines and set of comprehensive recommendations for the design, selection, operation, and maintenance of mooring systems, again, to ensure safe mooring of the vessels at terminal for the tanker vessels. Within the shipping industry, I would say MEG4 guidelines have been regarded as gold standard for mooring equipments, offering extensive coverage across various aspects. It provides insights into mooring design, equipment selection, inspection protocols, maintenance practices, safe mooring procedures. It emphasizes the type of mooring equipment and their respective applications, along with guidelines for assessing the conditions of mooring equipment to ensure it meets the required safety standards. Ultimate objective, again I emphasize, is to enhance safety and foster best practices in mooring, and in turn reducing accidents and protecting the environment. The key features of MEG4, if we discuss very briefly, it provides detailed requirement for the design and construction of the mooring equipments, namely bollards, fair leads, chokes. It provides guidance on the selection and inspection of the mooring equipment, including ropes, wires, chains, connectors. These guidelines specify the inspection intervals, criteria for rejection, replacement of worn or damaged equipments. It provides detailed guidance on procedure for safe and efficient mooring operation, including the planning, preparation, and monitoring of the mooring lines during the operation. Benefits from MEG4 compliance is bountiful for the vessel operators, port authorities, and other stakeholders. MEG4 compliance, again, I will stress upon, it reduces the accidents, incidents, risk of injuries, equipment failures. It provides a framework for the efficient mooring operations, and again provides reducing the cost and the time lost if there was non-compliance. Now, we spoke about MEG4. Now let's talk about RightShip inspection questionnaire. The RightShip questionnaire, which is commonly known as RISQ 3.0, under its section 10, advocates the integration of OCAMF MEG4 principles within the dry fleet and recognizes the substantial benefits it offers. It specifically emphasizes implementing MEG4 recommendation in its section 5, mooring lines, section 6, mooring winch, and appendix B, guidelines for purchasing and testing of mooring lines and tails. Furthermore, it promotes the development of vessel-specific mooring management plan and line management plan aligned with the Intertanko guidance. Winch brake testing, RightShip has already introduced its circular RS 042020, detailing mooring winch brake rendering test, which aligns now closely with the long-standing tanker vessels requirement. The circular emphasizes conducting annual brake testing while also providing guidelines for the safer test procedure. Significantly, it also underscores the relation between the vessel's brake holding rendering capacity with the value of the ship design MBL rather than the mooring line MBL, which was previously done. RightShip very clearly demonstrate a growing influence and admiration for OCAM MEG4. It encourages dry operators to progressively align their practices with MEG4. Over the time, the gap between the tankers and dry vessels is expected to narrow down. IMO, as has been spoken by our earlier speakers, have also taken notice, and now they are adopting these procedures wide their MSC circulars 1619, 1620. Classification societies too are adapting these ships, and hence right ship is also aligning itself to again to ensure safe operations, less accidents, less injuries, and proper and safe operations of our vessels. Thanks, Captain Ritesh. Hope I addressed
Yes, yes,
it.
yes, you did, Captain Manish. Basis the topic just delivered, I want to ask you something from the same topic. We are here talking about right shapes and MEC4, which are recommendatory guidance. We know that we all have to comply with IMO circulars. So I want to ask you, what is the how dry vessel operators, or why they should be concerned as a dry vessel operator to be bothered by right ships and MEC4 as far as mooring safety is concerned.
See, MEG4 has been a pioneer, and their work is considered gold standard for mooring equipments, which offers extensive coverage across various aspects. Their work, as I said, has been now being adopted by IMO, class, and in turn, RightShip also. It provides detailed insights for mooring system design, equipment selection, inspection protocols, maintenance practices, safe mooring procedures, along with the guidelines to assess the condition of the mooring equipment to ensure its safety standards. Now, RightShip, being a maritime risk assessment and environment assessment organization, it evaluates the safety and environmental performance of the vessels based on the various criteria, which also includes mooring equipment and operation, which I mentioned in the RISQ 3.0 chapters. RightShips and MEG4 are connected as far as mooring safety is concerned, and RightShip is using MEG4 as one of the reference standards for assessing the quality compliance of mooring equipments and operations on board the vessels. RightShip also encourages the ship owners and operators to follow the guidelines, recommendations of MEG4 to improve maritime safety performance and reduce the risk of mooring incidents.
So basically, after IMO circulars, we have to, as a dry vessel operator, one has to look up to right ships, and then MEC4 will be always there as far as mooring safety is concerned, because it is such a authoritative works in mooring safety of merchant vessels. So more and more compliance is, I can see it's on the horizon in coming time.
Correct.
Another question for you, Captain Manish, is okay. I mean, IMO circulars nobody can avoid, but how about the right ship? I mean, is it right ship mooring compliance compulsory for all the dry vessels?
Okay, let me address it this way, Captain Tesh. Sire inspection on the tankers, as we are all aware, are done as per the requirements of the charters and the relevant charter party. Regular and timely sire inspections are carried out uh, in compliance with the VIQ, which we all are aware addresses the MEC4 requirements and adherence. Compliance with RightShip is not compulsory for dry vessels, but it is highly recommended and beneficial for ship owners, operators who want to improve their safety and environmental performance, thereby reducing their operational risk and enhance their reputation in the maritime industry.
Right.
As we discussed earlier, I'll just point out the sections again for the benefit of our listeners. RISQ 3.0 Section 5 deals with mooring lines. Section 6, mooring winches. Appendix B, guidelines for purchasing and testing of the mooring lines and tails. Furthermore, it also promotes that the vessel specific mooring management plan and line management plan are developed. So, in short, by complying with the right ship standards and recommendations, ship owners and operators can benefit a lot, thereby reducing any incidents, accidents, and ensuring safety and best practices in the industry.
Right, right. Thank you, Captain Manish, for such a wonderful insight about regulatory framework. What as a dry vessel operator we have to comply. Uh, so after Captain Manish, let's move on to our the next speaker, Captain Vipin Manapure. I would like to invite you, Captain Vipin, to speak about safe and economical compliance, because so far we have been hearing a lot about compliance requirement, statutory requirement, recommendatory requirement. So we as a dry operator would like to know that, okay, how to navigate out of all these requirements and extra requirements and additional requirements. So over to you, Captain Vipin. Captain Vipin, you're mute.
Thank you, Captain Ritesh. Very delighted to be part of this webinar. And good day, everyone. As the topic for me is basically the challenges faced by the dry operators to comply with the new regulations. The challenges faced are the specific requirements of BHP RightShip, as we heard earlier. Compliance with the RightShip, BHP, and other third-party requirements for the bulk vessels is to comply with the new regulation. This is definitely an arduous task for start going ahead with for the bulk operators, especially for the fleet, for the company having a fleet of older vessels. The only way forward, it seems to be vessel to comply with the regulations at the earliest, especially for the commercial aspects. More importantly, the commercial aspects is the stumbling block at this moment, and a clear understanding of the regulation, like understanding what is the maximum braking load and line should have in order to the vessel to procure, and how to do it, something like that. So and then the criteria for retirement of line. So minimum way forward for a bulk carrier operator is to have a line management plan drawn up.
Right.
And line management plan drawn up from the expert, and this will require a involvement of an expert to review their ship plans and have a mooring system and line management drawn up.
Right.
That's it. Anything? And drawing up of mooring system and management plan will require extensive details to be provided by the operator itself. Like
Right.
it won't be easy for a fleet of older vessels where the details are not in line, like misplaced. They are not available sometimes. It's definitely not an easy. So vessel has to contact the class, yard, and this is time-taking process. Once the mooring line and management plan is prepared, the same would then also need to be eventually connected to the vessel, but this plan would contain details of compliance the vessel has already in place, and the gaps which the vessel and operator has to address so that it is complying eventually over the time.
Right.
So identifying the gaps, closing the gaps, and having a risk-based approach to the meaning having a risk assessment for all the gaps for the time being until the gaps are fully closed is the way forward. So, Ritesh.
Okay, okay. So, uh, Captain Vipin, so basis the compliance, we'd like to know a little more. Okay, so as a dry vessel operator, what shall I, what minimum is required to to be done as far as the upcoming IMO circulars, or how in your company you have addressed the upcoming IMO regulations for which is effective getting affected from 1st Jan 2024.
Uh, as a minimum, dry operators, like what we have done, has approached a third expert for drawing up of mooring management system and line management plan. That is broadside itself, and having done that, review and action plans provided with the recommendations in that gaps covering up, and provided a standard risk assessment prepared, amendment of SMS where in extra checklist, and updating of PMS has been done, so that, and of course, prior joining, we have given a training. We do provide the training to the crew, training in the sense that getting familiarization with the new requirements to be done on board. So risk-based approach being done, and amendments to the internal audit, special focus on emphasis on mooring audits is being done,
Okay.
and of course, uh, we have made a criteria for retirement of ropes, especially like every 5 yearly, but basis on the usage of the ropes, actual usage, not just the procurement and the day the ropes is on board, actual usage on board, period of usage. And while, of course, while we procuring for the new ropes, ensuring the certificates, we are ensuring that certificates has LDBF, line design braking force, mentioned on the certificates, so that that is actually the requirement nowadays. So ensuring that is there, but we still face challenges because many of the shore uh, side, it is still not amended, and they are still not aware of these things and changes. And few of the vessels heading to dry dock, we are having a brake rendering capacity and uh, equip, well, brake rendering capacity and all the details thoroughly checked again in the yard. That's it.
Right. Thank you, Captain Vipin. Now, we have been hearing that, as a minimum, we need to review our SMS procedure in light of MSC circulars 1620. I'm talking about the existing vessels. Also, MSC circular 1362, as a minimum. Another point I would like to, what I have gathered so far, that we have to make vessel specific MSC, MSMP, and LMP, which in
Yes,
line with which tanker vessels are, have been doing for some time.
correct.
Uh,
Yes.
I want to talk about terminology which may be new to the dry industry, but it has become old in tanker industry. Uh, Terminology short form is MBLSD or SDMBL as it is known in the industry. So, can you tell us about this terminology? What we hear, because this terminology is also mentioned in MSC Circular 1620. Captain Vipin.
Yes, SDMBL is also expanded as ship design minimum braking load. The minimum braking load of a new, it says, uh, is a minimum braking load of a new dry mooring line of its ship mooring system.
Right.
Entire mooring system on board is designed to withstand. That is a figure which is being calculated basis of equipment number. What the expert will derive and prepare a line management plan and ship mooring arrangement plan. So, minimum breaking load of a mooring line for which the ship mooring systems are designed to meet the standards requirements, and ship design MBL is the core parameter against which all the other components of the ship's mooring system will be sized, and it has to be above this SDMBL figure on board.
Right, right.
So SDMBL figure will govern all the criteria for all the
Correct,
equipments on
correct.
mooring equipment.
Right. I can see that, this terminology has been borrowed from OCIMF. Only the
Yes,
sequence has been changed. I mean, in OCIMF MEG4, it is being called as STMBL, and in IMO Circular, it has been called as MBL-ST. They have
MBL.
also given a formula in there to calculate MBL-ST.
Yes,
Uh, but uh, uh, but I mean, what I have seen, because we are working with tankers and dry industries alike. So, though the terminology is the same, but the method of calculation, the
methodology.
philosophies are different. So this is one area where the vessel operator has to have a clarity that what it is like, how Captain Vipin, you said that MBL ST or STL SD MBL, that is a core value, and everything else is
Correct.
dependent on this core value, right?
Exactly.
Okay. Next question for you, Captain Vipin. Suppose, as we can see that tanker industry is also coming to terms, even after 5 years for this MEG4, it's such a authoritative study. As far as dry vessels are concerned, I mean, okay, we do what we are supposed to do, and after that we find a number of gaps, you know number
Yes.
of gaps as compliance is concerned. I'm not counting any gaps as far as IMO circulars are concerned. We have to cover that up, so there is no discussion about it. I'm talking about the gaps as when in light of, say, right ships, because right ship again mentions MEG4 at many places. So how to go ahead with those gaps?
Again, the gaps, what as per the right ship, basically it's a guidance. Uh, we need to risk-based approach. Again, we have to
Right,
have a risk assessment prepared, standard risk assessment prepared around, and it definitely be a ship specific, and that should sort out the cover up the gaps part of it with respect to right ship, and definitely over the period of time we need to close that gap as time permits and situation demands, maybe in the dry dock or next somehow something like that.
right, because I'm sure that there will be many gaps,
Of
because
course.
this is these new requirement, so there will be a lot of gaps. And like you rightly said, a risk based approach,
Yes.
even MEG4 very clearly mentions about a risk based approach, and not go for just the blanket compliance of whatever
Correct.
is mentioned in there. So your approach or your planned approach in your company, it seems quite
Yes.
right. uh, let's talk about a very practical issue about the procurement, or shall I say retirement of ropes. You know, so
Yes.
suppose we do all the gap analysis, and we find out that the ropes are not fitting in the new regime. You know, like Captain Ravi Sekhar said earlier,
Yes.
that ropes, the MPL shall be between 100 to 105% of the
Correct.
of assigned MBL ST, or for that matter STMBL.
SDMBL.
So
Yes.
now my rope is, say, 110%, for example. So I'm not fitting in that envelope. So
True.
what, as a ship operator, shall I go for renewing all the ropes, or what?
It has to be definitely. It has to be. It has to be done pace wise, definitely we need to, it is required to replace the ropes. But for the present, for the time being, a risk-based approach can be carried out and approached. Special training and briefing can be done with the ship staff, onboard people, onboard crew, so that they are aware that this exceeds the requirement and eventually will be phased out as far as regulation is concerned.
Right. And you rightly said the key word here is the risk-based approach. If
Yes.
we find that use of that rope is hazardous to the safety of crew, vessel, or the
Yes.
terminal environment, then definitely. But if we can back it up, if we make a risk assessment and we take a risk-based approach and we back it up with some hard figures, some calculations to support our risk assessment, I think that would save a lot of pain for us, and economy wise as well. That would be wise thing to do. So thank you. Thank you, Captain Vipin Manapure, for discussing how you have been implementing solutions in your fleet of dry vessels.
Yes, sir.
Uh, so thank
Thank
you,
you.
and thanks to all other speakers, who have been kind to share the insights from their experience and their company and what results they have got. Uh, uh, thanks for that, and over to you, Ashish.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Captain Ritesh, for moderating the session. And I would like to thank all our panelists for such a valuable insights. I'm sure most of you must have got answers to your questions from the discussion that we had through this panel. However, I would still like to remind all our participants you can still submit your questions by clicking the option click here for option button, which will be on the bottom at the left side of your screen. And you can click ask a question and you can mention the name of the speaker and ask your question. Okay, thank you. So we will take a pause here from panel discussion and proceed to our next leg of webinar. I would like to introduce our next speaker, Captain Sudeep Mittal, CEO, Broadside Dry. He heads the vertical providing services to dry fleet operators. So over to you, Captain Sudeep.
Thanks, Ashish, and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends and colleagues. First and foremost, I'd like to express my gratitude to Ritesh, our co-founder and my partner in crime. I'd also like to extend my appreciation to our exceptional speakers here today, Mr. Sunayan, Captain Manish, Captain Ravi, and Captain Vipin. Your contributions have been enlightening and eye-opening, especially for someone like me. Your collective wisdom is a testament to the power of collaboration and knowledge sharing. Now, as we draw this remarkable event to a close, I want to emphasize the critical importance of drawing up plans for systematic inspection and maintenance of mooring equipment. Our vessel's safety, reliability, and efficiency depend on it. The MSC Circular 1620 stands as a valuable resource to ensure the highest standards of safety. Now, you've seen how this circular, along with the MEG4 guidelines, encourages us to create vessel specific line management plans. Now, making these plans is no joke, it is a laborious task. And in today's fast paced world, it is an additional burden on your valuable resources. But that's where we come in. At Broadside, we've meticulously analyzed vessel and company specific data and successfully delivered over 300 plans across vessel types, including smart assignment of SDMBLs. Now, let me share with you where our journey takes a revolutionary turn. What if I were to tell you that we are on the cusp of something extraordinary? Imagine a future where this tedious task of creating vessel specific plans becomes a thing of the past. Picture a world where every piece of ship specific and company specific data seamlessly merges to create masterpieces of efficiency. Soon after onboarding our first digital solution, Carbon, which takes care of all your EU ETS, CII, EEXI needs, Ritesh and I have been on a journey of introspection and innovation. Many a times we've asked ourselves the same question: how can we further empower our clients with the potential of their own data? And what we've created is nothing short of a game changer. It's a SaaS based solution designed to address all your mooring management concerns. From SDMBL calculations to documentation to inventory management to maintenance, even procurement, we've got you covered under one unified platform. It's like having a brilliant team of experts right at your fingertips, ready to support and guide you. This platform will have various user profiles and modules that will simplify mooring management, whether you're at sea or ashore. Through aggregated data and advanced data analytics, we've designed powerful, insightful, and dynamic dashboards that will unveil a new dimension of insight. It's an insight that will redefine safety and cost optimization. This isn't just a product, it's an invitation to dream big. It's an opportunity to redefine the future where mundane tasks are automated and your team can focus so that things don't fall between the chairs. It's a vision of streamlined, efficient, and innovative ship management that elevates your fleets to new levels of excellence. Now, this product will be offered on a subscription based model with pricing structures tailored to your specific needs. The subscription fee is more than just an expense. It's an investment in reducing the workload both at sea and shore and enhancing safety and optimizing costs. And at Broadside, we are immensely excited about this product and the endless possibilities it unlocks. What excites us the most is the immeasurable value it will bring to our clients. So stay with us on this journey. Keep your minds open to the endless possibilities, the uncharted territories, and the transformative power of your own data. With Broadside's digital solutions by your sides, you are not just a step ahead, you are poised to win. We look forward to a bright future that lies ahead of us as we embark on this digital journey together. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks very much for your time and attention. Have a great weekend ahead.
Thank you, Captain Sudip Mittal, for this wonderful presentation. I hope that digital solutions will make the life of dry operators a bit easier. Thank you. So moving ahead, let me start with the exciting leg of webinar, which will be the questions and answers. We have been receiving a lot of questions right now through our chat box to all our speakers. So I'll invite all our speakers and panelists on stage. So over to Captain Ritesh Kumar to take up the questions with the panelists.
Thank you, Ashish. Once again, we are getting a lot of questions. One question has come from Captain Mohit Kapoor. He has asked this question for the Captain Vipin. What is required to be done in cases when a specific terminal insists on a higher LDBF ropes more than 105% STMBL? This question is for you, Captain Vipin, which I believe is a very, very common issue with dry operators. Captain Vipin, you're mute.
Sorry, there is not major say unless the terminal agrees, are assuring them that All the mooring system on board are as per IMO and other international standards. But nothing majorly we can't do anything much other than that.
Right. So basically, we are at the receiving end in this case as well.
Yes, exactly.
Right. Hope that answered answered your question, Captain Mohit, in short and sweet. Uh, another question has come in. This is about a technical term called D by D ratio. You know, so this D by D ratio also finds a mention in the MSc Circular 1620. Uh, so this question is, if the D by D ratio for few lines on board is less than the recommended value of 15, do we need to do something on board? And this question I'll be asking from Captain Ravi uh, about the D by D ratio. If it is less than the designated value of 15, and do we need to do anything, Captain Ravi?
Yeah, Captain Ritesh. The guidelines is it should be kept to a minimum of 15. I'm sorry if you are getting a lot of background noise working
That's
on.
okay. We can hear you.
Yeah, okay. So unfortunately, it's the responsibility is placed on the line manufacturer to document the performance about what angle it can work on. The idea of having this D by D concept is to reduce the bend, the angle at which the line can still have its characteristics. The braking force is not reduced. So the two options we can either go for a thinner rope, which probably with the MBLSD now is the governing criteria for selecting the ropes, which traditionally the ropes have been much higher than the 105% requirement, which have been 170. I've seen ropes are going up to 230% of MBLSD and all that. So when we're selecting the next rope, that time we need to be careful about this criteria, and then we need to get in touch with the manufacturer of the rope, saying that okay, this is the D by D for our vessel. So need to be aware of this factor for our vessels, which we will get it from the MSMP or LMP, which will be made for the vessels, which is already, if it's not already made. In any case, it is a mandatory requirement to have this plan for all the vessels going forward.
Okay, thank you, uh, Captain Ravi. So basically, D by D ratio, I think that it will be always a challenge. Just a minute. The D by D ratio will always be a challenge, but obvious where the vessel is using the mooring lines. I mean to say the fiber lines, because the fiber lines diameter itself is much more than say wire ropes or the HMP ropes. So more often than not, we will land in a situation where D by D ratio is much lesser than 15.
Yeah,
And
here what has happened is this D by D ratio was actually again borrowed from the MEG4, which was mainly for the tankers, and then were the as you say, the wire ropes, which are much less dia.
right,
So
right,
it'll be definitely a challenge for the dry ships.
right. See, this has again cascaded down from MEG4, where it was primarily meant for tankers. And we all know that mid and large size tankers, they have been using wire ropes. So what was mainly built for tankers are now coming to dry, and there will be some rough edges, and this is one very common rough edge we are going to witness. So thanks for your answer, Captain Ravi. Uh, Captain Ravi, one more question for you is coming up. Uh, Somebody has asked about HMPE ropes. A very very common belief is that HMP ropes may break anytime, because it looks weak, because it is so thin, so light, So a very common question are is the use of HMP ropes safe? You're mute, Captain Ravi.
Sorry. So what we need to understand is what seems to be safe need not be safe. What seems to be unsafe need not be unsafe. So I would put it that way. So if the manufacturer is saying that it is the LDBF is so much, so the manufacturer is giving the certification. He is audited by the various certification bodies, IAC society or anybody. If he is saying that this is of this much a particular XY strength, so traditionally what I see is traditionally we all have been used to seeing much bigger dia ropes. So when we
Right.
see smaller dia ropes, that is a psych, So i- will this take that much of a load? Is it really of that much strength? But if you have the certification and if you are getting it from a reputed supplier, that should not be an issue. In fact, it will make the life of the ship staff easier in handling the ropes.
Right. Definitely, it will make the life of ship staff much safe and easier. I have met few rope makers over my journey, and they are so pepped up with the concept of HMP, and many of them are claiming that their HMP ropes are even stronger than the wire ropes. And not only stronger, they would last longer as compared to a wire rope. So there is a very big gap, I would say, between the rope makers claims and as a dry vessel operators, our understanding, or maybe our lack of understanding. uh, so thank you on that, Captain Ravi. Uh, Okay. One question has come in, which is a compliance documentation issue. Uh, this question has come from Mr. Sunain. Uh, uh, does the MSMP and LMP plans, which we have to do as a minimum, does it needs to be approved by flag state or RO or classification society, Mr. Sunain?
Yeah, and thank you for this question. We can confirm as of now, there is no requirement for any approval of the MSNP and LNP by the flag state or by the class society. Having said that, the manual has to be placed on board by 1st January 2024. Whether the manual is held on board will be verified by class during the first safety construction survey after 1st January 24, but doesn't require any RO approval or class approval as of now. Thank you.
Okay, so I would say, Mr. Sunayan, that has made the life a little bit easier, that we don't need another class approval or flag state approval for upcoming regulation. But that should not stop a vessel operator to do their in-house work. Uh, so thank you.
Yeah.
Uh,
What
Mr.
I would
Sunayan,
sorry,
sorry.
what I would add here is 16201 clearly defines, gives what are the topics the plan should contain. So
Correct.
every plan, even though if it is not required to be approved, those minimum topics should be covered in detail, because it is going to be verified that these things are there in the plans during the annual surveys. So even though there is no requirement for certification of the plan, approval of the
Right.
plan.
Right. Thanks for adding in, Captain Ravi. Uh, one more question for you, Mr. Sunayan, as a dry vessel operator. Do we have to do some extra safety training for our crew, as in light of the upcoming regulations?
Okay, and speaking purely from a regulatory point, from a SOLAS point, it doesn't specify anything about a mandatory training and certification. However, we have seen that the industry at some point will adopt some certification and training procedures. As of now, nothing mandated as a statutory requirement. That is the current status. Thank you.
Right. So nothing statutory, nothing mandatory. But if the vessel, if the operator wants to train their crew, maybe it can be added as a value-added training. But otherwise, there is no statutory requirement for training. Okay. All right, Mr. Sunil. Another question has come up. It is about the wonder term, the MBL-SD or SD-MBL as it is called in OCM MEG4. Uh, uh, this question is that our vessels do not have any MBL-SD or SD-MBL value. So do we need to calculate it? Let me answer that question. See, we cannot, as a dry vessel operator, we cannot run away from this term. We have to adopt this term. This is a new term, but we cannot run away because these terms are mentioned in IMO circulars. These terms are mentioned in right ships. These terms are mentioned in MEG4, of course, and these terms are being used without much consideration and without much leniency by terminal operators. This term is very easy to use, easy to remember, but this term itself brings in has got a lot of manifestations around it. Just using this term and do a few things and thinking that okay, we have done our part, that's not enough, because these terms is the theme or the crux of MEG4, where mooring aspects entire mooring parameters are built around this term. So yes, I mean, if this term is not there on vessel, we have to identify that value, and it is not only one way, or we cannot say that okay, we have followed the class formula and we have got the MBLSD and we will use this and we will be happy with this and we don't have to worry about anything else, because like I said, this term origin is in MEG4. MEG4 has a philosophy. This term has been used by IMO, same term, but they have a different philosophy. So just having that term as per the IMO circular may not be the entire thing in itself. What has to be done has to calculate this term as per IMO circular, find out from classification society or from old documentation about this term if it was there. Also go ahead and find out this term as OCMF philosophy, and then assign a value which can cover most of the gaps. Because one thing is for sure, what we have seen over the years, that it is very, very difficult to comply 100% with MEG4. We have to leave some gaps, but again, remember about the risk-based approach. Those gaps has to be something which we can live with. These gaps should not endanger human safety, vessel safety, equipment safety, or the terminal safety in any way. If we are able to prove that, then yes, we can live with the gaps. And of course, then these gaps has to be familiarized to the vessel staff, because okay, as a vessel operator, we have done everything. We have given the plans to the vessel staff and think that our job is done. But when a third party, sorry, inspector comes, he identifies a gap and puts down as an observation. If our vessel staff is trained, they have been familiarized that okay, these are the gaps for your vessel, we have done a risk assessment. Where required, we have done the calculations, which supports our risk assessment, and the same thing is conveyed to the third party inspector. The third party inspector will also realize, yes, they know what they have, they know what they don't, and they are prepared for it. So that will be a more proactive, assertive, and positive approach rather than just providing the plans on board. Right? Okay, so okay, we are getting a lot of questions. So let me see which questions we can take up next. Okay. Okay, safety training is done. Yeah, okay. Okay, one question I think we have already discussed, but still this question has come. This is for Captain Ravi. What documentation and record keeping practices are essential for demonstrating compliance with safety and upcoming regulations? I will repeat it for you. What documentation and record keeping practices are essential for demonstrating compliance with safety and environmental regulations?
Yeah,
Captain.
thanks, Captain Nitesh. This is very important because we have personally seen that this is what is being looked for by RightShip. We had a couple of inspections last week where RightShip was specifically looking for this, and then uh, I think you have already covered this area just few minutes back, a minute back, that what is required to be done, what documentation. So the documentation is review of the mooring systems. Uh, Everything revolves around the MBL SD or SD MBL. I'll restrict myself to be to
Right.
MBL SD, that is from a dry perspective. Uh, so we need to have a calculation. If it's already not there, the MSMP and the LMP has to be done. That has to be done by preferably by somebody who is specialized in this, like yourself, your company. Uh, so because as you said, the calculation and then review of it is might not be possible for many of the organizations where the resources are not so great. So that's the basic thing what we need to do. The second thing is, now the ropes are not complying with the maximum of 105% of MBLSD. So, but we still say that we will continue using it. We are not changing ropes immediately. So how do we mitigate the risks? Uh, so we need to have a risk mitigation approach. We need to do the risk assessment, look at the LMP, look at the MSMP, and see and train the crew and see this is what it is. We need to see that brake brake rendering is calculated, and then it doesn't exceed that SDM, your LDBF and all that. So when somebody like especially a third right ship or somebody is coming, they're first looking at the risk assessment, then your documentation like LSM, MSMP and LMP, and of course the training, and the retirement criteria of the mooring ropes also is looked into closely by the third party inspectors. So for that we need to maintain the records when the line was put into use. We should be able to demonstrate when how long they have been in use, and if you are saying that it's say time based or condition monitoring, whichever you feel is it has to be done earlier. So for that you need to do that inspection of the mooring ropes, and then and document the status of the condition of the mooring ropes. If we feel that the mooring rope has deteriorated before the 5 years, as has been uh, as per the guidelines of the manufacturer or something, if we can demonstrate that we have done something like that, then it will be a positive from rightship point of view, that we are going ahead and then doing things proactively rather than just following the minimum requirements. Hope that covers. You're muted, Nitesh.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry. Thank you, Captain Ravi. Thanks for the answer. Uh, Next question we are getting is about for Mr. Sunayan. Sunayan Saab, this question ask what measures can dry operators take to prevent damage to vessels and equipment during mooring operations?
Yes, this is a very valid and pertinent question, and you will find that this is always asked after an incident. Whenever an incident takes place, everyone, starting from the owner, wants to know what can we do to prevent damage and such incidents. And we have seen our experiences invariably a judgment is passed on ineffective maintenance, but more often than not, the problem can lie in the design. Are you performing any operation with mooring equipment which is beyond its design capability? One good example is one which Captain Ravi gave us about warping. Have ships been designed for warping and shifting the ship in a berth to adjust to the loader? I don't think the mooring equipment is designed for such an operation. When you have failure of equipment during such operations, you can't say, I mean, you're operating your equipment beyond its design capability. That is, in fact, one of the reasons why they are trying to bring all this under the statutory ambit. So you will always declare what your equipment can do or cannot do. You should always, so we should always impress upon the ship to check that they are performing operations within the design capability of the systems on board. Thank you.
Right, Mr. Sunayan. Very true. Uh, okay, we have one technical question. How does the rope layer affect the winch uh, BHC or the rendering capacity? I will repeat. How does the layer of rope affect the brake rendering capacity? Let me answer that question. Uh, See, rope layer does affect the brake rendering capacity. It's very simple. It's just the as the rope layer increases, as the rope layer increases, lesser force would provide a lesser torque will apply a larger more force to the winch and force it to release. So for our understanding, it has to be taken as if more the layers, more the layers of the ropes, the brake will render at lesser force. You know, so when we do the brake rendering capacity test, we always say that this capacity test is done on the first layer, because we are not sure in which port which will the rope will be either second layer, third layer, first layer. So to keep things standard, normally it is taken at first layer. Suppose the first layer we have designed, or we have altered the setting so that it renders at say 30 tons, right? But we go to the port and the rope what has been passed to the terminal is not much, and our rope sits on the third layer. Yeah. So now, when the force or when the torque on the mooring rope will suppose the torque raises up, and it goes say up to 30, and then we expect the brake will render. But actually, in real life, the brake will render much before that. The brake will render at a force lesser than 30 tons, what it is designed to render at. So that's the effect of raising layers. Hence, one should be careful that what break rendering tests, whatever they are doing on board, which layer they should test it on. Either it should be the first layer, or some companies I have seen, they have been keeping on the second layer, or for that matter, third layer. But it has to be clear wherever the brake rendering test is done. It has to be clear for which layer this test has been performed. So that's about it. Uh, I think we have taken a good amount of questions, and I think we will stop the questions and answer session now, Ashish. Having said that, let me tell to all the viewers here that if they have any question, any doubts, or any comments, any suggestions, or any other query, they can always approach, or they can still write their questions. We will try our best to answer all of their queries through email, because we have the email from the speakers, I mean from the participant. So whoever has asked the question will get a reply for sure. So thanks again, all the speakers, and I hand it over to Ashish. Back to Ashish.
Thank you, Captain Ritesh, and thank you all the panelists for being here. I'm sure this has added a lot of value and insights to all the people, and have thank you for answering all the questions. So let's move on to the final leg now. Okay. So we proceed to the last part of our event. I hope that audience has just experienced an engaging and informative discussion on the subject matter. Remember, our panelists are those few who had personally experienced mooring safety challenges, and they successfully navigated out of this. So information shared here are real and practical, which can be used on your fleet. On behalf of the entire team, I wish to thank you all for attending our webinar on mooring safety and compliance for dry operators. We once again wish to express our gratitude to our speakers for sharing their knowledge and expertise with us. Their contributions were invaluable, and we are grateful for the time and effort they put into preparing for this webinar. At the same time, big thanks to all attendees for joining us in large numbers today. Without your interest, this webinar would not have been possible. If you have any further questions or comments, please don't hesitate to send your queries directly to Broadside Dry at dry@broadsidemarine.com. We would love to hear your feedback on the webinar and any suggestions you might have for future topics. So thank you once again for attending, and we hope to see you next time. Thank you.